This is the Joby Beamo. It's a small, powerful, single chip LED light, and nobody's talking about it. The Joby Beamo comes in two varieties. This is the Joby Beamo Mini, and this is the Joby Beamo. The main difference you can see is the size. As you can see, the Mini is smaller. Both lights share a number of specs, so let's look at those first. Both lights charge via USB-C and have built-in non-removable lithium batteries. Both lights are waterproof up to 30 meters and are made from a mixture of aluminium and plastic. The body features two cold shoe mounts and one quarter 20 mount. They both have Bluetooth built in, which means you can control them with an iOS or Android device. But we'll get to that in a minute. The CRI rating for both lights is 95+, and the colour temperature is 5100 Kelvin. That pretty much covers all the specs that are the same, but of course there are a few differences. The max brightness of the larger Beamo light is 1500 lumens compared to 1000 lumens on the Mini. Being as the Beamo Mini is a lot smaller, it does of course have a smaller battery, but you won't notice that because of the difference in power. Battery life on both lights is the same because of that difference in output. So on the larger light at full brightness you'll get 40 minutes and the same on the smaller. At 50% brightness you're going to get 100 minutes on both. There's a 200 gram difference in weight, the larger one being 130 grams. Physical dimensions are the same in all directions except for the height, where the larger light is noticeably taller. The final difference between the two lights is round the back. The Beamo Mini is magnetic, so it can attach to any magnetic surface, whereas the larger light ditches the magnet and includes wireless charging. Each of the lights comes with a silicon diffuser and a cold shoe adapter with quarter 20 in the middle. So let's talk about control. To control the Beamo lights, you have two options. You can either use the 2-button interface on the side of the light, or you can use an app on either an Android or iOS device. My preferred method is the app, but let's start with the buttons. To turn on the light is pretty simple. You hold down the left button and it turns on. To up the brightness, use the right hand button and it goes up in 5 increments. To turn it down, back to the left button and it will go down in those same 5 increments. To turn it off, hold the button down and it turns off. Pretty simple. As you can see, I've labelled mine to remember which button's which, but there is an indicator on the left one to remind you which one's which. I just kept forgetting, so I labelled mine. When it comes to app control, that's done by the My Joby app. Pairing the lights with your phone is pretty simple. You just hold down the on-off button for a bit longer and that activates the Bluetooth. Once you've paired the devices, it's pretty simple to reconnect when you go into the app. The good thing about the app is not only does it allow you to turn on and off the light, it also allows you to control the brightness 1% at a time. So if you want a really specific level of light, you can do that in the app. Whereas on the buttons on the side, you're only going to get those 5 brightness levels. So here you can see with this light, I can gradually turn up the brightness using a slider. So I can dial in precisely exactly how much light I want, all the way down to just 1% if I want. You can also turn on and off the light and it remembers your last position. The other thing you can do in the app is turn it on to strobe. And when you're on strobe, you can also choose the speed. You can also use the Beamo as a flash. It has an optical trigger above the chip which will communicate with the optical trigger on your camera so that you can trigger the flash to go off when you take a picture. That's all very useful and very interesting, but the best thing about the app is that you can do this for all your lights at the same time. This means that if you've got more than one of the Beamo light, you can have them all listed out and then turn them on and off and control the brightness individually or all together. So I can tap one button and turn both lights on at the same time. I can then individually control the brightness of the lights, turn individual ones off, or turn them all off. Pretty cool. Once you've got all your lights in the app and set just how you want them, you can actually save that as a scene using a photograph and a name so that you can go back to those exact settings again at a later date. This is perfect if you're using them dotted around your studio, maybe you're lighting up the background or you're using it as a hair light. You can have them all set up, save it as a scene with a photograph, name it, and then next time you go into the app, you can just switch to that scene and everything will come on at the same time with the same settings as you had before. The app also shows you individual battery life for each light and it shows you when they're on charge and the percentage they're at. Let's talk about mounting options. Each light has got 3 mounting options. It's got 2 cold shoes and 1 1/4-20. And with the cold shoe adapter they give you, that means you can mount them pretty much anywhere. Say for instance you're vlogging with a large SLR style camera. You wouldn't be on this because it's so old it doesn't actually do video, but you could mount the light directly to the top of the camera using the cold shoe. Then just stick a diffuser on and you've got a light on top of your camera that's going to give you great lighting when you're vlogging. Perfect. But I know what you're thinking, now you've got your light where your mic would be. Well, they've got you covered because they've got another cold shoe mount here so you can have your mic slotted onto the side. You'd even still have a 1/4-20 left on the other side if you wanted to attach something else. Let's say for instance that one light's not enough and you want to combine 2 lights together. Well, because of the cold shoe adapter and the cold shoe mounts on each side, you can attach 2 together at once. In fact, with the right configuration, you can have a wall of 4 lights all together. And don't forget, with the Mini, you can attach it to anything magnetic because of that magnetic back. Now this brings me onto one of the first downsides of the Beamo. The magnetic back on the Mini is very useful and a great idea, but it's just not powerful enough. The weight of the light itself in most situations means that it's not quite strong enough to stay exactly in place. It could do with being just that little bit stronger. It takes only the slightest of nudges before the thing starts to move, and that can be the difference between your light being in the right place and the light being on the floor. So how powerful are they? Could you use the Beamo as a key light for instance? This is my normal lighting setup. I use the Elgato key light. The max brightness of this is 2800 lumens, but currently this is only on 15%. So let's switch over to the Beamo. This is the Beamo on 50%. Pretty good. Obviously you don't get quite the same softness of light because it's a much smaller source, and the Elgato key light is a wide diffused panel. This is the Beamo at 100%. Again, it's very harsh, but given a little bit of tuning, you can get it to be quite nice. I have used the Beamo as a key light in some of my previous videos, but as you can see, it's not the greatest light for a key light, but in a pinch, you can do it. The included silicone diffuser does help with diffusion, but the implementation is not the best. A simple tap on the side and it falls off. So I definitely wouldn't recommend using the Beamo as a key light, but you can definitely use it to light up parts of your background set or as a hair light for instance. In a couple of my recent videos, you may have noticed that I've experimented using a bit of colour in the background, and that has been a Beamo light with a coloured filter over the top. When it comes to battery life on the Beamo, I would say it's good, but not great. And this is where, if you were trying to use it as a key light, you're going to get unstuck. My original idea for the Beamo lights was that they were going to be my entire lighting setup. I wanted to create a really small, lightweight rig. I don't have a lot of space here, and I thought I could use the main Beamo light as my key light and the other two lights as maybe background and hair light. This is what you can see an example of in a few of my videos earlier last year. Now, there's a couple of reasons this didn't really work. One, the lights are a little bit harsh on your face, especially for a studio setup. I did try bouncing the light and a few different setups, but I was never quite happy with the overall look. And whilst the brightness is there, the battery life is not. Now, you can actually run these lights whilst they're plugged in, but they consume more battery than they recharge. So ultimately they will still run out. The other thing is they overheat. I mean, they get really, really hot, especially on full power. If you have that main Beamo light on full power, it will get red hot, almost to the point where you can't handle it. And after a short amount of time, it drops down to a lower brightness setting. This means that you have to wait for it to cool down before you can pump it back up to the brightness you had it before and carry on shooting. This is really frustrating when you're in the middle of recording. In the end, I had to scrap the idea and opted for a more conventional solution in the Elgato key light. If you want to see that setup, I will link the video up here and down here. So who's the Beamo for? Ultimately, this is aimed at vloggers. Slap it on the top of your camera, use the secondary cold shoe mount to slide your mic in, and you've got everything you need in one rig. And speaking of rigs, because of the multiple mounting options, you can get some pretty interesting rigs. If you're a mobile shooter, you can use the light between the tripod and the phone holder, and then you've got a place to attach your mic as well. If you're thinking of getting something like a Lume Cube or an Aputure MC, then this will be just as useful in your camera bag. If you like this video, then give me a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you would like more of this type of content, then hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, why not hit the bell? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.